Alrighty, so at the time of this recording, we still got about 25 minutes before the second matinee game that's going to be kicking off today on Saturday. And what's great about this week's matinee game is that since there's a 50-minute gap between both of them, I have enough time to not only write down here on the board in terms of the 5 games that's going to be happening tomorrow, but also have in time to do the preview of the Sunday game and still have enough time to prepare to watch that game between the Galaxy versus Austin FC. But with that being said, let us actually get into the first game, which is going to be Sporting KC versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. This game will start at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time, but the actual kickoff will be at 1:08 p.m. local time. And by the way, these 5 games that's going to be happening on Sunday, 3 of them is going to be on national television, while the other 2 is going to be on regional network, and this is one of the 2 that is going to be on regional network. And both of these teams coming into this game are fresh off of a 1-0 loss that they suffer on the road in the midweek action. Sporting KC, of course, lost 1-0 to Houston away, while Vancouver lost 1-0 to Minnesota away. Top goal scored for both of these teams. Oh, also, both of these teams are coming into this game with an identical record of 2-1-2. But in terms of the top goal scored for both of these teams, for Sporting KC, you got Gadi Kindle with 2 goals, followed by Daniel Showery, Elie, Gianluca Busio, and Alan Polito, all with 1 goal apiece. For Vancouver, you got Christian Dahome currently top of their goal scoring chart with 3 goals, followed by Andy Rose and Kevin Lee with 1 goal to their name. And basically, the top goal score stats is pretty much the same as the one that I talked about with each of these teams playing against their respective midweek opponent, because both of these teams weren't able to score a goal during their midweek action. But yeah, let's see who can potentially bounce back in this game after they suffer that a tough 1-0 loss against their opposition on the road. And you got to say that both of these teams definitely wants to bounce back, because both of them were definitely very frustrated with the way that the 1-0 loss that they suffered was very identical, where both of these teams weren't able to put away the chances that they had in their game in the middle of the week, and then they of course can see the 1 goal that turns out to be the difference of the game. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match, it is going to be FC Cincinnati versus Inter Miami. So I'm, of course, wearing my FC Cincinnati jersey because I am honoring them in terms of playing their first ever game at their brand new stadium, that is TQL Stadium. And they're going to be playing their first home game at their brand new stadium at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific time. But the actual kickoff will not start until 4:10 p.m. local time, as this game is, I believe, going to be on ABC and not actually on ESPN. But yeah, this game is going to be on ABC. And for both of these teams, I would also kind of say maybe this is kind of another game where you could say this is a desperation derby for both of these teams, because for Cincinnati, they're currently winless this season with an 0-1-2 record, while for Inter Miami, they have a 1-2-2 record, and they of course look flat in that game against Montreal in the middle of the week by losing 2-0 at home. Top goal scored for both of these teams, while for Cincinnati, they have only scored 2 goals so far this season, which I think that's the least amount of goals that anybody has scored so far this season, with Lucho Acosta and Brunier their only goals scored. While for Inter Miami, you got Gonzalo Higuain with 2 goals, followed by Federico Higuain, Lewis Morgan, and Robbie Robinson with 1 goal. And these stats are pretty much the same that I mentioned before when they play against Montreal in the middle of the week, because they didn't score a goal during that game. But yeah, like I said, this is kind of a desperation derby for both of these teams, and you might sense that there might be more pressure on FC Cincinnati in this game, because they're playing in their brand new stadium. And I did look at the record in terms of teams that is playing their first game in their brand new stadium, and they tend to have a very good record in terms of playing at a brand new stadium. I don't recall a team that is opening up their brand new stadium, and I don't recall which team actually lost that game in the past couple of years, because I know the last time when we saw a game with a team opening a brand new stadium, it was Minnesota United against NYCFC, and they drew 3-3 in that one. And then also going back, we saw LAFC opening up their brand new dig, and they won 1-0 against the Seattle Sounders. But what I'm saying is that if you look at past history of teams opening up their brand new stadium and playing their first game there, they tends to have a very good record on that. So no pressure, FC Cincinnati, in terms of trying to replicate that, but in some way you hope that maybe with them finally opening just a probably right now one of the best MLS stadium that they're about to open up is going to be enough to help them get their first win of the season. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be New England versus Columbus. So both of these teams, of course, play in the middle of the week. New England, of course, had that controversial 1-1 draw against the Philadelphia Union away, and their record is now 2-1. While Columbus, they lost 2-0 against Toronto away, and now their record is 1-2-1. I think that also was the first loss that they suffered for this season. This game will start at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, but the actual kickoff will not start until 6:13 p.m. local time, and I believe this is also going to be a game that is going to be on ABC, and I think this is the first time we actually see a double header of a game that is going to be on ABC. Or actually, I might be mistaken. I think that was actually the last week that we had a double header of games that's going to be on ABC, and now I'm kind of starting to second guess myself because I feel like maybe one of these games are supposed to be on ESPN, or actually one of these games was supposed to be on ESPN too. But either way, both of these games is going to be on national television. And for this game between New England and Columbus, as I mentioned, the refs, they had that controversial 1-1 draw against the Union, while the Crew had a 2-0 loss against Toronto away. Top goal scorer for both of these teams. For New England, you got Carlos Hill, Gustavo Bo, Theo Bunbury, Brendan Bai, and Adam Buxall all tied with 1 goal. Well, for Columbus, despite the fact that they scored 3 goals this season, their only goal scored is Lucas Arian, because in the 3 goals that they, of course, scored, which was all in that game against DC United, 2 of them was actually an own goal that was scored from DC United. So, yeah, let's see how this game is going to turn out, and I think this is also kind of a bit of a marquee matchup where, I mean, I know a lot of people, when you look at the Sunday game, a lot of people is going to focus on this one, but I really think this one is also should be a good matchup because both of these teams are considered they're some of the best team in the Eastern Conference, and some might even say that this might even be a preview of the Eastern Conference final, although I think it's still very early to kind of just say that both of these teams are going to be meeting against each other in the Eastern Conference final. And speaking of which, I almost forgot that this was actually the rematch of the Eastern Conference final last year. So yeah, maybe that might even spur up the fact that this could not only be a marquee kind of matchup, but this could be also a matchup between both of these teams where New England is definitely looking to try to get some revenge against Columbus after they lose 1-0 against the Columbus Crew. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be DC United versus Orlando City. So this was the other game that's not going to be on national television besides the Sporting KC versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. But this one is going to be a night game, as this game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. But the actual kickoff will not start until 8:08 p.m. local time. DC United, of course, snapped their 3-game losing streak by winning 1-0 against the Chicago Fire at home to improve their record to 2-0-3, while for Orlando, they drew 1-1 to NYCFC at home, and they stay unbeaten with their record being at 1-3-0. The top goal scorer for DC United, well, so far, I think they have only scored 5 goals this season, and those 5 goal scorers are Edison Flores, Tony Alfaro, Ola Kamara, Russell Canals, and Brendan Hines-Ike. While for Orlando City, Nani currently tops the chart for their team in terms of the goal scored at 3 apiece, followed by Tesha Akindele and Junior Urso with 1 goal apiece. So yeah, let's see if DC United can maybe follow up that victory against Chicago in this game against Orlando City, although it's not going to be easy because this is probably going to be the toughest opponent that they're going to be facing at home. And for Orlando, they have had a couple of games that kind of slip away from them this season. Hopefully this is not one of those and maybe they can get their second win of the season in this game against DC United. But now moving on into the game that I'm pretty sure everybody is looking forward to, because anytime when the Seattle Sounders play against LAFC, people are going to talk about it. Like I've said before a couple of weeks ago, this has started to look like what happened a couple of years ago. Remember how a lot of people, whenever whenever there's like a match between Atlanta versus the Red Bulls, a lot of people tends to pay attention to that one, even though they technically are not rivals against each other. But with the way that both of these teams looks was very both of these teams were like the top team in the Eastern Conference, and also there were some kind of cagey kind of matchup and some physical matchup between both of those game. That's why a lot of people started to say that the Red Bulls and Atlanta kind of had that rivalry for a short amount of time. Well, seems like this is kind of the case in this one, but this is kind of like the Western Conference version of a match that you might not think it's kind of a rivalry in terms of geographical point, but in terms of both of these teams being very good, and also both of these teams tends to be teams that the league always talks about the most. It does create this kind of a little bit of a rivalry between both of these teams, and that there's always that excitement whenever both of these teams, of course, meet each other. And also because of the fact that this is kind of a matchup between the Seattle Sounders versus LAFC, you knew that this is going to be on national television, and indeed it is. It's going to be on FS1. This game will start at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, but because it's on FS1, we have to put 25 minutes past the advertised start time, and that the actual kickoff of this game will not start until 6:55 p.m. local time. And in some way, I'm kind of glad that it's a little bit of a later start, because I did mention yesterday that these were the only two games that I kind of had to worry the fact that it can overlap each other, besides the other game where it's actually nicely put, where it has like a 2-hour gap between each other, and I don't have to really worry about missing some of the action by just focusing on one game specifically. But for this one, at least, with this being kicked off a little bit late, I think I'll probably have to watch both of these games simultaneously for roughly about 10 minutes before I can basically watch this game alone, because this one between DC versus Orlando City would have finished. But coming into this game, the Sounders, they obviously have the best record in MLS with a 4-1-0 record, while LAFC, they did lose in El Trafico by a final score of 2-0 away, and their record is now at 1-2-1. Top goal scored for both of these teams, Rui Diaz currently with 5 goals, and I believe he is second on the top goal scorer chart right now, followed by Freddie Montero with 2 goals, and Brad Smith also the same thing. Then you got João Paulo with 1 goal, and also followed by Christian Roldan, who of course scored that wonderful goal against the Quakes in the middle of the week, and now he's on the top goal scorer chart for the Seattle Sounders. Now for LAFC, you got Corey Bear currently leads the chart with 2 goals, followed by Diego Rossi, Jose Cifuentes, and Atuesta with 1 goal apiece. Now, coming into this game, obviously, the big question coming into this game is whether or not if Carlos Vela is going to be healthy coming into this one. I still haven't heard a lot about the health of Carlos Vela and whether or not if he is going to be available both for this game. So we shall see when they do announce the starting 11 and also announce the squad for LAFC in this game. We'll see whether or not Vela is going to be in the 18. But as for the Seattle Sounders, they also have some health issue that they need to worry about. Now, the good news for the Sounders in terms of injury is that, when Stephen Fry went down with that injury late in that game against the Quakes, and he did kind of had to be helped off the field and didn't really put a lot of weight in terms of one of his ankle, there was a lot of Sounders fans that was holding their breath and hoping that this is not another Jordan Morris situation where Stephen Fry might be done for the season because of a torn ACL. Well, it turns out from what I heard, it's not a torn ACL. It's actually just a sprained ankle, and that he's only going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So that has to be a big relief if you're a Sounders fan, knowing the fact that Fry did not join the latest member of a Sounders player that is going to be in the torn ACL club. But unfortunately, the bad news for the Sounders, besides the fact that Fry is not going to be available for them for 4 to 6 weeks, is that they did also have a player that joined that torn ACL club, and that player is Jordy Delem, who, of course, I know a lot of people were talking about the Stephen Fry injury late in the game, but not a lot of people will have talked about, and it kind of overshadowed in terms of the fact that Jordy Delem had to come sub off early in that game. And originally when I saw him kind of subbed off, it didn't look like it was a serious injury, but now it seems like it was, because he unfortunately suffered a torn ACL, and unfortunately will be joining Jordan Morris in terms of the torn ACL club this season. Certainly a club that I don't think any players want to join with. And I'm assuming he's probably done for the season too. So yeah, that's kind of the bad news for the Sounders in terms of the injury department. But you know, I kind of don't want to say this because I don't wish players to get injury, and I don't want to just say one player that gets a serious injury. It is maybe a little bit better compared to well, their more important player getting a serious injury. But if you're a Sounders fan, you cannot not just kind of reluctant to say that thank God it was not Stephen Fry the one that suffered the torn ACL, and instead it's actually Jordy Delem the one that suffers that. But yeah, you know, coming into this game they're gonna have a backup goalkeeper who was I forgot who was the backup. Oh, Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland is the backup goalkeeper for the Sounders in this game. I mean, I'm wondering, you know, maybe they should put Alex Rodon between the stick again, because I thought he was great when he was between the stick for that final couple of minutes. But nah, I'm just kidding. I think it's going to be Cleveland that's going to be in goal for the Sounders, and let's see if LAFC can potentially take advantage of the fact that the Sounders are not going to have Stephen Fry between net, and maybe they might take some pot shot early to try to test out Cleveland to see whether or not if he is going to be decent. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the preview of these 5 games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 5 games that's going to be happening tomorrow? And as always, let me know in the comments below your prediction for all 5 of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.